Yes, good morning everyone and welcome to the raceway that is the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca here in California as we're high above looking down from the drone. I'm Jonathan Green and alongside me Ben Sissel as always as we look forward to a group session of Group 10 coming up first, but we have several groups in action over the next hour or so. Ben, what are you looking forward to? Group 10 is first, but I know you always have your favourites like Group 6. And that is to come, and we've also got the historic, as I mentioned earlier.
Well, I really like that Decon Monza right there, Richard Goldsmith going out. But Group 10 is such a mixed group. I tend to like the Trans Am cars, like that Walt Brown is racing out there. You can clearly see him because he's got a Pepto-Bismol electric pink Panther insulation car out there. But I'm going to go through the grid real quick, the starting grid. Steve Goldman, who we're also going to see in the TA race in the same car, doing double duty in a 2002 Chevrolet Corvette TA car. Bill Aukerland is in the Scott Pruitt 1991 Trans Am winning Chevrolet Camaro. Beautiful car, and it has not been painted. It is just as it rolled off the track with him in 1991, so it's cool to have him here. Scott Winders, 1987 Porsche 911. Brian Lawrence, 1969 Porsche 911. In fifth is Ken Epsman in his 1984 Trans Am, Pontiac Trans Am. Jack Bitton in his 2011 Ferrari 458. So just look at that juxtaposition in those three cars. A 69 Porsche 911, an 84 Pontiac Trans Am car, and a 2011 Ferrari 458 Challenge car.
And I always ask you this question, but how do you put together a Pontiac and a Porsche 911?
It's they look very different, but they run very similar track lines. Yeah. They have similar downforce and similar brake zones. So for safety, they're not racing against each other. They're in different classes.
Yeah.
But you're going to see them running similar lap times. And the Ferrari will outhandle some of these big TA cars or stock cars. There it is right there. There's a black Ferrari right there. But these TA cars will get them on the drag races. You know, so it's a good mix, and Laguna Seca, Road Atlanta, Sonoma, those are equally yoked. The Porsche Ferraris have the advantages in some areas, but then the stock cars, the Trans Am cars have advantages in other areas, so it makes for some really good racing. In seventh place, Rudy Rivak is going to be racing also with us in Trans Am, but he's in a 1999 Pontiac Monte Carlo this race. Scott Borchetta, we'll see him a lot today. 1981 Buick Regal, Darrell Waltrip, and Marty Robbins car. Rick Jeffrey in 8th, Chevrolet Camaro. Walt Brown in that pink car. Ernie Spada in a Porsche 997 2010. Philip Mendelevitz in that 1989 Nissan GTU of Bob Leitzinger. Dave Ricci, Chevrolet Camaro. Steve Toth. Mike Minamy. Steve Toth is in the Mark Martin car. Mike Minamy in a Buick Somerset. Matt Johnson. Richard Goldsmith in that Decon Monza. Bob Kelly, Chevrolet Camaro. Steve Beck, actually, that's in the Mark Martin car, the Ford Thunderbird. Chris Schlandler in the Mercury Capri of Lynn St. James, and Edward Hugo in that Dodge Viper.
So it's a full grid, no question about it. And we're about to go racing. Perfect timing as away they go for our first race of the day. It's Group 10 in action here at the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. And bolting into the lead is that Corvette. The bright orange Corvette, you can't miss it as he dives into Andretti for the first time, but it's nice and crowded into that first corner. Two Porsches side by side, and it looks as though the little yellow Porsche of Scott Winders has got the advantage going into turn 3 because effectively this course turns round on itself, and if you get the outside line out of Andretti, you can get the inside line out of 3.
And watch for these two Porsches up front of Scott Winders and Brian Lawrence to really go at it. I think they raced together in the PCA Pro Cup. And even though it's a 1987 and a 1969, they are very equally yoked out there.
Yeah. Well, as you say, we've got quite a few different makes of cars out there. Really an interesting, eclectic group. But as you say, it's all based on the fact that they get round the same course at the same time, roughly at least, depending on their ability. The Rahal Straight, the longest straight here at Laguna, just a little bit longer than the front straight, which kind of jinx anyway, and then into this famous corkscrew, a wonderful drop-off. It really is death-defying, and if you've never been down it, I can assure you it is. Well, actually, the camera angle almost belies just how steep it is. It really does just drop right off a cliff edge.
Yeah, you go light. You know how
Yeah.
you almost lose gravity for a second if you're going fast enough, and these guys are definitely going fast enough.
So away we go, a 21-minute feature race 2. They raced in action yesterday. And this is their second race of the day, of the weekend, excuse me. And it is Bill Auckland, Scott Winders, Steve Goldman, the man leading though at the moment after that first lap. He put in a 136.883, pretty respectable I would say, and certainly quicker than anybody else out there at the moment.
That's Scott Winders right there in that Porsche. They had a great battle yesterday, and they're picking up where they left off here today.
Coming through turn 4, and yes, opening it up now. There's your leader in the all bright orange, and here is Scott Winders, the man you just mentioned, coming into 5.
Look at the wing extensions on his wing.
It's big, isn't it?
Porsche made, a pretty nice spoiler on there, and he thought, that's just not big enough.
That's not big enough. I mean, that must make a big difference to that car.
Yeah, and the engine's in the back, so they got to make sure that they've got stability back there, but that wing is adding a lot of downforce, and they'll adjust it to the different tracks. So this track probably, because it's so intricate and technical, they probably add a lot of downforce to those wings.
Yeah, can imagine.
And then Scott Borchetta somehow is keeping up with these Porsches in a car that really shouldn't be, but his team and Dylan, they really do a great job of preparing cars. He
can't have the effectiveness of that rear wing that they have in that car that he's in, but he's pedaling it well in that Buick Regal.
Yeah.
Purple, yellow, and green. You wouldn't think that combination would look good, but it does. And we've got on off there the 88 of Bob Kelly in the Chevrolet Camaro.
Yeah, I'd like to, Darrell Waltrip and I live in the same town. I'd like to text him and say, look at this, you're racing a Ferrari. Did you ever think you'd be doing that? Coming down the main straight of WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca.
Well, why haven't you invited Darrell up here?
He needs to come up here. We need a little boogity to our start.
Yeah, we do.
Look at that, the Ferrari ducks inside because the Ferrari has the traction. But now Scott's going to try to get him on a little bit, maybe more power, but I just think that Ferrari's just got him here in this technical section of the track.
As you said, we'll see Scott Borchetta a lot. He's a busy boy. He raced yesterday to a top 10 finish in TA2. He'll be out in that Corvette, I'm sure, again later today. That 1969 Corvette he races. And, he's getting some real track time. There's no question about it.
And look at this. Here's Walt Brown in that pink number 28 car. And, just again, Ernie Spada in that 2010 997 These cars, you wouldn't see them on track together, but look, they're running very similar times. The Porsche has the advantages around the turns. Now Walt's going to really try to put his right foot down, try to catch up to him in the corkscrew. But the Porsche's got the brakes.
And I like the fact that you can see these different cars racing side by side a lot of the time, and see how they handle these cars and how differently you can see how they take the corners.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have seen that if it was just of one field of the same car.
No.
You wouldn't notice it as much, but you notice how the Porsches and how the Pontiacs and so on, execute at this very, very tricky, like you say, technical circuit that is, as we look down high above turn 11, the final turn here at Laguna Seca.
And this is Walt Brown's favorite track. He told me that a couple days ago. He loves WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, has it dialed in. Here's a great battle right here. This is Wally Dallenbach versus Bob Leitzinger.
Yeah.
That's just fun to watch. So that's Rick Jeffrey driving the Wally Dallenbach Greg Pickett Protofab championship-winning 1985 Chevrolet Camaro.
Good-looking car, too.
Yeah, and that's Philip Mendelowitz in that 1989 Nissan GTU that was driven by Jim Pace, Bob Leitzinger, and Butch Leitzinger. Beautiful car there. We're going to have a lot of Nissan and Datsuns here in our Group 8 race.
Yes. And they put on a good show yesterday.
Yeah, the B sedan. We've got 29 B sedans here with us this weekend, and that's just a lot of fun. There's Rudy Revac. We're going to see him later. He's in that number 60. We're going to see him later. That's a 1999 Pontiac Monte Carlo, but he will be out with us in the Trans Am race. So that's an SGT car as well. You can see the SGT sticker as he's coming up on a TA car. So welcome Rudy. Rudy's been with us the last 2 weekends. A lot of fun to watch these cars. That Nissan, though, that's just a cool looking car.
You know, the irony is we've got to a point now where SVRA was formed, in 1978. So there's guys that have been part of this, not right from the very get-go, but a lot of guys have come in and have seen the evolution of these cars from state-of-art cars to now historic cars.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, it's kind of vintage racing that have drawn their values up so much. But we just saw Richard Goldsmith there going into the last corner, and he's driving a Decon Monza, which is just a crazy car. It's just a, you know, one of the Chevrolet entry-level cars that somebody had the wild idea to put a crazy motor in it, put a little bit of body panels on it, and that car is really tough to control. It's way too much power for that car and that chassis. They really had to stiffen it up. Richard's doing a great job of driving that around, but that's just one of those cars that somebody had a wild idea, probably over a few drinks, and said, let's just stuff this thing in there, and they're having a blast out there with it.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. That's Mike I don't know how to say that. Mike, I'm sorry, but
Mike McNanamy.
Maybe. 1985 Buick Somerset. And I love how he has the number 6 on the side of that car. There's Richard Goldsmith. Richard's also racing with us in HTA in that slime green Sam Posey car. But we don't see many Buicks out here. But there's 2 Buicks in this race right here.
Yeah, you're right. It's a nice looking color scheme, and I love the front grille. Excellent. It looks as though somebody's hit him from behind, but other than that, it looks fine. Buick will be on the phone now.
Yeah.
Down the corkscrew again. Just under 15 minutes to run in this one, and they're getting a good early morning run here in perfect conditions. It's nice and cool here. We're expecting mid-80s by the end of the day. Into turn 10 and then the final turn 11. And you can see the gap between the top 3 for yourself. The drone really illustrates it well. We don't need to give you spot-on timings. The gap officially 0.9 from the leader to Scott Winders in second place, but you don't really need to see that once you've seen that overhead shot. There's Matt Johnson. He's had to park all the way up the hill.
Yeah.
Past me on his way in the other day.
Yeah, and he was with us last weekend at Sonoma. And he calls that the coronavirus car. It has these splotches on it. It was before the coronavirus, but it does kind of resemble the coronavirus when we were looking at those pictures.
Yeah, sure.
So I hope he's wearing a mask.
Where did they come up with that?
I don't know. I think that's probably how it was raced in the GT Cups.
Yeah.
It looks like we have a car off at Andretti Turn.
Oh.
Double yellow
all
the way around.
Yes.
We can get a shot of that.
Well, he's still moving. No, he's stopped.
Yeah. He's right in the impact zone. Ugh.
And that is Brian Lawrence in that 911. And it's unfortunate, really, because if he really can't move that, they're going to have to put a caution out. But it should be a local caution, don't you think? Well, he is on the exit.
Have to go double yellow on that
yeah,
one,
he's on the exit.
That's an impact zone.
Yeah,
Somebody's coming in there blind.
Yep. So the racing could be curtailed by a double yellow fairly soon. And, in fact, the yellow is out locally anyway, as Brian Lawrence is stuck, and we've got a fire truck about to go out and rescue him. We've just gone past our commentary position.
Well, this should make for an interesting. It's not going to take them long to tow that out, and there's an escape road there, so
yeah, shouldn't take long.
It's not going to take long, and we're going to probably get a restart. Now, there's a waving yellow, but there should be full course yellow. I've heard from race control that they're supposed to be double yellow.
Okay.
So that guy needs to be hanging the 2 flags up there.
Meanwhile, the leader is back at the corkscrew.
I met him, I think he was with us at Portland a few years ago, racing in Group 10, and I said, hey, why don't you put that car in TA? And now here he is, racing that same car in the TA class.
Good for him.
Doing really well. So pulling double duty, you know, it's the entry fees to SVRA and Trans Am are very reasonable. The real cost is towing the cars here, getting them prepared.
Yeah.
So might as well race it in both. You get a lot of track time.
And how many wheelers?
Ooh,
whoa, that was a bit close.
He should be past.
That's interesting. That, I think, was a bit of a mistake.
Well, no, it's nobody. The car, the flag, Richard saw just a local yellow.
Right.
So they're not waiting double yellow. Just now, the starter stand. So now Richard's done the right thing. He
slowed right down, yeah.
Yep.
So he's got behind the safety car, but that was a bit of a moment.
That was, yeah.
I would have thought our Civic driver was getting a little bit uncivic there for a moment.
Yeah, hearing him on the radio, and yeah, you're right. But he did the right thing, and he put his lights on. So Ron Rigdon is in our pace car driving that around, and he's saying that the front straight didn't have double yellow.
No,
that time.
Well, and therefore Mr. Goldsmith made no mistake.
Yeah, it was good for Richard not to collect the safety car, and for Ron to pull over.
For all of us.
And then for Richard to get behind. So we're now square, but that could have been a bad.
And as you say, it shouldn't take too long to remove that car from where it is, just outside or just on the exit of Andretti.
Where's Scott Borchetta? There he is.
Oh, there he is, yeah.
Okay, and we just saw the Lynn St. James car. Neat eclectic class here. I do like this, the black Camaro back there that looks like the Smokey and the Bandit livery Breathless team brought out right there. Behind that Porsche GT Cup car right there. Look at that.
There you go.
That is pretty cool. It does look like the Smokey and the Bandit, a modern version of that.
Yeah.
And then there's Rick Jeffrey in that Protofab championship-winning Wally Dallenbach Jr. Greg Pickett car. And if you look at the roof of those cars, both of those gentlemen have signed his car, because it's not unusual to see Wally Dallenbach Jr. and Greg Pickett in the SVRA paddocks with Trans Am and SVRA.
Well, it's not unusual to see Tom Jones on the flag post.
It's not unusual. There he is. We're looking right at him. Tom Jones.
So we're under caution here in our first group race of the day. Welcome if you're just tuning in to our speed tour from Laguna Seca. We have already been to Sebring and Road Atlanta and Sonoma in the West Coast Racing Championship. Ben's been out here on the West Coast for the last few weeks. Enjoyable. Decent weather. I mean,
great.
I know you had some rain at Sonoma, but it's pretty good around here at the moment.
Not bad. It was. It made for interesting racing at Sonoma, and I love this, what I call Bay Area. You know.
Yeah.
For Sonoma, it was only about a 2-hour drive. Beautiful drive. We got 2 days off. We went to the Redwood Forest or the Muir Woods.
Nice.
And that was unbelievable. We drove across the Golden Gate Bridge, did some good sightseeing, came to Monterey, which is a beautiful location. If you've never been, you need to come out. And I think, we go to all the best tracks, the most iconic historic tracks, and these are two of what I'd consider to be the top 6 road racing circuits in America.
I'd agree.
And to do them back-to-back like this, we have a lot of guys come out from the east side of the Mississippi River, and they can do this trip, do 2 great tracks with 1 tow, and that makes a lot of sense for them.
Yeah, and actually it makes it more worthwhile, because you don't want to just go all the way to the West Coast for one weekend and then come all the way back. And as you saw on that last shot from the drone, that car is being pulled away. And sadly, that was Mr. Lawrence, Brian Lawrence, in his 911 from 1969, stuck at Andretti, but now being towed away. And we should get away and get, we'll get several laps in for the last 7 minutes or so.
Yeah, there's a gate at turn 5 that they might be taking that car out so that it doesn't have to go all the way around. They don't like to tow the cars all the way around the track because the corkscrew is so severe that the tow rope will get snapped on their splitter.
Yeah.
And so what they do, if they do have to tow them up there, they basically let them coast around like a soapbox car.
So I would have said the safety car should come off this time, because the car has now gone and we are ready to go racing there. Scott Borchetta.
Looks like we'll probably get 2 to 3 more laps in under pressure. And now that the tires are heated up in that Porsche, look for that Porsche to jump out and try to give Richard Goldsmith something into the Andretti turn.
Yep. So they're just trying to keep temperature up in those tires. It's early morning here in Laguna, just before 9 o'clock a.m. And you can see the mist just in the distance there being blown away, as it always is. It comes in off the coast, and it can be pretty cool here, both in the early morning and the evenings here. It's only April, obviously, and so it tends to be pretty chilly. The track will be fairly cold, but will heat up as the day goes on.
Lights are out in the pace car. Group 10 did not want to go out on a green, cold track. They like to have a lot of rubber on the track, and so made for some interesting racing, as we've seen so far.
So we are going green now. Here comes the pace car. You'll watch him flip off to the left, and there he is. And now the race is under Steve Goldman's tutelage. And away he goes in that all-orange. Number 13, once again, up the hill and down towards that Andretti hairpin. There's the 23.
Oh, Ferrari ducking in.
Thought about it.
Yeah, and that's going to
213, I should say, of Jack Bitten.
Some momentum there.
Yeah, a little bit. That car should be a missile around here, though, shouldn't you think?
Yeah.
It's one of the more modern cars, for sure.
Yeah, that's going to handle pretty well.
2011, definitely.
But that Porsche's got a lot of power.
We've got 1997 from 2010. No, we do have a newer one. That's the Chevrolet Camaro of David Ricci in 2014 Chevrolet Camaro. So we're underway again. 5 minutes to go. As up the hill goes Scott Borchetta. Oh no, the leader! Steve Goldman. What on earth happened there? That's a shame, and I think that's probably due to slightly colder tyres and probably pushing up to temperature a little too quick. But that has now gifted Scott Winders the ability to win this race, and Jack Bitten also will be getting excited by the possibility of a win. So we've got a race on now, for sure.
Yeah, that changes everything. Trying to figure out where he is. It looks like he's at the Andretti turn of turn 2, but I didn't see him there when the camera position went by with that Ferrari.
Yeah, I think it is, and there's the truck going out of the pit lane. I can see, or coming into the pit lane. So, excuse me, he's going to go back. Oh, my word.
So that's the race.
And that has given Scott Winders the win, and yeah, he's stuck. Well, and you understand why they've done that, because by the time they've got him out of the way, the race would be over anyway. So Scott Winders, Jack Bitten taking second place, and Scott Borchetta getting on the podium. Walter Brown in fourth place, Ernie Spader in fifth, and David Ricci, the man I was just talking about, in sixth place. Rudy Revak in seventh, and Rick Jeffrey in eighth. Oh, you got a feel for him. He was doing everything right, and he was miles ahead before the caution, and that's the trouble with racing.
Yeah.
It can change in a heartbeat.
And like we just talked about right before it went green again, that the cold tires, cold track. So yeah, but maybe he was just like, I'm going to try something and see if this will work for the Trans Am. You know, they're always out here trying to find speed.
Yeah.
So maybe he tried a different line that just didn't work out. But he's a really good driver. He's doing really well in the TA class in Group 10. So we're going to see him later on this afternoon. Yeah,
I was talking to Scott Borchetta, who said that that there's times where he goes out in some of the historic groups just to feel the track, because we had wet weather at Road Atlanta and same at Sonoma, and so sometimes you just use that session to work out where the grip is.
Yeah,
doesn't matter what you're driving, the grip will be the same. So confirmation of that result, a shortened race, but Scott Winders takes the win for the Porsche 911. And Jack Bitten in second place. Scott Borchetta, the man we were talking about, in third. Walter Brown fourth. Ernie Spader in fifth place. David Ricci sixth. Rudy Revak in seventh place. Rick Jeffrey eighth. Mendelevitz in ninth position. And Richard Goldsmith in the Decon Monza, rounding out the top 10. A little further down, McNamee, Johnson, Goldman, Schlander, and Kelly. Edward Hugo, Brian Lawrence, as you saw, was the man who caused the first caution, and that's what led to the leader going off. We'll take a short break from Laguna Seca. We'll be back, and the sun is coming up here beautifully. Join us in a moment.